This is Auburn Nation. Welcome to the first episode here on Eagle Eye TV Channel 6. I'm Evan Blank, and we are proud to bring you members from student media. Eagle Eye TV, The Plainsman, and WEGL dive into topics from around the sports world. Here with us today from Eagle Eye Television, JJ Jackson. How are you?
I'm doing well, Evan. So glad to have this show with you and getting to spend all this time. It's going to be a great show. Looking forward to it.
From WEGL Radio, my good friend Micah Larson. Micah, how's it going?
It's going well, Blank.
All right. Evan McCullers joins us from the Auburn Plainsman. Evan, I'm so glad to have you on.
Happy to be here.
All right, gentlemen, we got a lot of topics to dive into today. First up, though, Auburn football after the game versus San Jose State last weekend. Will Auburn football have a winning record from here on out? JJ, start us off.
Well, to answer your question, Evan, I don't think they're going to have a winning record from here on out. Just one non-conference game, and then they have the back half of the SEC schedule, which will be tough. Like we've mentioned in previous talks, we think that at Kentucky and Arkansas are the two winnable games remaining. But to answer the question point blank, I don't think they're going to win any games.
I gotta
won't have a winning record.
I gotta agree with you. I mean, the Kentucky game, you have hope because you have a bye week, and they'll have a, if it's a short week, you're kind of nervous going into that game. Otherwise, Arkansas is looking good. They go to Tennessee, but who knows with Bielema and Auburn and Gus going back to Arkansas. But I think you look at Texas A&M, home against Georgia, home against Bama. All those teams right now look good, and frankly, we don't.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think best case scenario, they go 3-4 from here on out. I think the likely scenario is they go 2-5 in the remaining 7 games. I think offensively, they've just been too one-dimensional, haven't gotten the quarterback play that they've needed. Defensively, giving up over 400 yards a game, that's not going to cut it in SEC play. And when you have, like you said, the back half of that SEC schedule remaining, I just don't think they can get it done.
One thing I do like going forward, though, is that those tough games, the Ole Miss, Georgia, and Alabama, they are played here at home in Jordan-Hare. So you would hope that they'll be more competitive in those games. But I still don't think they're going to have a winning record from here out.
All right, gentlemen, how real is the possibility that this team goes 0-8 in the SEC? I mean, because that's a big concern.
I think it's a very legitimate possibility. You look at, like we were saying, Kentucky is no joke anymore. It's just a tough SEC schedule. Granted, anyone can win in the SEC any given Saturday, but for the most part, I think offensively, like you said, we're too one-dimensional. We had 4 turnovers against San Jose State and only managed to beat them by 2 touchdowns. Defensively, I think we're slowly improving, and you can see it. Offensively, I feel like we're moving in the opposite direction.
No, definitely. I think that it's very possible for them to go 0-8 in SEC play. I hope it doesn't go that way, and I would like to think that it's not going to go that way, but it's definitely a possibility with this team and the way they've played.
Yeah, I agree. I think the 2 winnable games, as we mentioned, are at Kentucky and at Arkansas, but you've got 2 already that we've lost, and then the 4 remaining with Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Georgia, and Alabama. I don't see Auburn pulling any of those out. Mm-hmm. So I think it's down to those 2 games, and that's kind of going to determine the course of the season from here on out at Kentucky and at Arkansas.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to move on. Auburn baseball now the subject. Sonny Galloway out as head coach at the end of last week. How does next season look for Auburn baseball this spring?
I think there's a lot of questions going into the season. Greg Norton was named interim head coach, and anytime a coach is dismissed, players are granted release by the NCAA to open up their transfer and go to different schools. And so not knowing who the team is going to be, it's hard for us to predict how the season's going to go. But the fact that you fired your coach this late into the year really concerns me.
Yeah, I got to agree, JJ. And we brought in a lot of freshmen this year as well, who we thought were going to go to into the draft and go right into the league, but they ended up coming here wanting to get a degree. And so now what happens with them? It's just a huge mystery right now, and I don't think that's something you want going into a baseball season, especially with Auburn struggling as of late, although they are coming off of a fairly decent season last year.
I think you said it. I think the worst thing is the timing of this. It's so late in the process that not only are you worried about Auburn's program and what it's dealing with, but when you look at a coaching search, other people are started at their program. Mm-hmm. Fall practice has started up now. It's going to be really tough to lure a good coaching candidate away from something they're already building to come to Auburn's program, which, frankly, I mean, it's on the way up, or it looked like at the end of last year they were on the way up, but still not a top-tier SEC program. So,
just throw out one or two candidates. Obviously, Greg Norton taking over as the interim spot here for the baseball team. Give me one or two candidates you foresee Jay Jacobs potentially going after.
I mean, in my honest opinion, I'd love to just keep a guy that we have as interim. As a player, I think you tend to come around a guy who gets thrown into the situation with you. So I think it'll be interesting to see. And I think it would just be easier, too, if we just hired from within.
Especially like we said this late, and you made a good point about it's hard to lure a coach away from the school he's at this point during fall practice and that kind of thing. I've heard Butch Thompson, Mississippi State's coach, being thrown around, and the hitting coach, Travis Javette at Vanderbilt. Those are good candidates, but where they're at right now, I mean, those are programs that have been in the finals of the College World Series in the past 4 or 5 years. It's hard to take them away from that to come be the head coach at a program like Auburn, given where they are right now.
All right, moving on. Auburn women's soccer had a tough loss last night to South Carolina, 2-0 loss. Auburn, great season though, 11-2 on the year. How far do you think Auburn soccer can get in this historic season?
I think as far as they want to go, we've seen that defense is really what's been carrying them so far. And then Casey Ramzier and the combinations of the forwards putting a lot of goals on net, and Sarah LeBeau has gotten a lot of credit, and she deserves it so much with her play so far. So really, as far as they want it, I see them competing for an SEC championship.
I agree. I think the big difference that we saw from last year to this year was whoever we seem to put in on the back line, if they do get beat, the speed and athleticism that they have to get back in front of the girls and really play good defense, I think that was the most eye-opening thing for me from this past year to this year. And I think when you have good defense, you know, the saying, defense wins championships. So,
yeah, I think winning the SEC is definitely a realistic goal. I think last year they got put out in the second round of the NCAA tournament. I think this year winning their bracket and maybe making a Final Four appearance, I feel like is fairly realistic. You know, they said before the season their goal was to make the Sweet 16. I think that goal might have changed a little bit at this point given the success they've had thus far.
All right, gentlemen, stick around. We got a lot coming up next. Coming up, NFL, college basketball, and game picks. Stick around. It's Auburn Nation on Eagle Eye TV, Channel 6.
From the moment we met, I knew we belonged together. I could tell right from the start that I was melting your heart, purring while you pet me, winding around your feet, and getting to just chill out with you. It felt perfect. But I don't know what just happened. Why am I in a cage, and who are these other sad animals? Where am I? They say I might get a new home. How can I get a new home when our bond was so special? What did I do wrong? How can you have given me up?
Welcome back. It's Auburn Nation on Eagle Eye TV, Channel 6. We've got J.J. Jackson, Micah Larson, Evan McCullers here from their respective student media organizations. All right, gentlemen, new topic. We're getting into the national spotlight. Louisville basketball being accused of paying an escort service to provide sex for Cardinals recruits. What's going to be the fallout from this scandal, and is the violation bad enough for them to forfeit their 2013 championship?
I think at this point anything's possible, but I think it's far too early to tell. You know, the story just broke last week. We don't have all the facts yet. Everyone's going to have their say with both the NCAA, and I'm sure it's going to become a legal issue as well, either way. So I think it's way too early to say, but if there were violations with recruits, then I think it's absolutely a possibility that that 2013 championship could be in jeopardy.
I think you said it. You hit the nail right on the head talking about it. It's just way too early with the story breaking last week. And then we talk about forfeiting the national championship, how we've seen that in previous years, the NCAA doing that. I'm personally not a big fan of that because as a program, yes, you lose the national championship, but you can't take those memories away from guys like Peyton Siva and Russ Smith and Gorgie Jang, who were a part of that magical run in 2013. So like you said, it's just way too early to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm going to be on the same page with you guys. You look at this, this happened before on
Right.
the Duke lacrosse team. Very similar situation. They jump the gun. The girl comes out later and says, hey, yeah, I just did it because I wanted the money. Nothing really happened. So in those sort of situations, you really want to make sure you go through the process, innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
Like, you even got Patrick Kane's scenario now too, where they were tampering with the evidence, stuff like that. So you really got to make sure you go through the process before you really jump to any conclusions.
All right, moving on, gentlemen, on to the NFL now. After their loss to the New York Jets in London, Joe Philbin out as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. What really went wrong, and who's going to replace him?
I mean, I think my big candidate is Kyle Shanahan. I think you look what he's doing with the Atlanta Falcons. He did a decent job with the Redskins. But I think he's kind of a head candidate, and plus his last name is Shanahan. His dad's a Hall of Famer. So, but I think if you're a head coach, I'm not wanting to go to London because every single year now, a coach gets canned when he comes back from London.
No, absolutely, I agree with that. In terms of what went wrong, a lot of people were picking the Dolphins to compete with the Patriots for that AFC East title and really try to maybe get the wild card spot and that kind of thing. It's hard to know exactly what went wrong. It just wasn't working out on offense. You saw a lack of effort from people. Defense, they spent a lot of money going after Ndamukong Suh this offseason. That really hasn't worked out.
He has 3 tackles.
3 tackles in 4 games. For the money you're paying him, that's ridiculous. I get that he's being double teamed, but he's Ndamukong Suh, and you'd figure he'd have more than 3 tackles thus far. And then in terms of a candidate to replace him, I know Dan Campbell, their tight ends coach, which is very interesting as your interim coach to come in and replace him. I haven't heard a tight ends coach now stepping up and being the head coach. But I think it's also too early, like the Auburn situation, to know who's exactly going to take over because we'll have to wait till this season, see who's let go from their positions to figure out who's next to be the head coach of the Dolphins.
I think as far as what went wrong, you have to look at just what professional sports are about, and that's wins. And the wins didn't come for Joe Philbin. But below that, you've got the player development aspect of professional football, and obviously Ryan Tannehill, a young quarterback, and then all the young receivers they have. I don't think the Miami front office saw the development that they wanted to see out of those young players. And then as far as replacement candidates, it's always interesting to hear the different names floating around, and it seems like one that's always there is John Gruden, from Monday Night Football. It's going to take a lot of money to pull him away from that, and I think it's going to have to be the perfect situation. But he is sort of that quarterback development type of guy, and I think him with Tannehill, you may strike gold there.
And I do think when you do look at a lot of the front office issues too, you bring in Mike Wallace, he doesn't do anything for you. Like you said, you pay Tannehill big money, he doesn't do anything. Sue big money. So I feel like it's a combination of front office decisions and head coaching wise, just things weren't gelling.
And not to mention Lamar Miller, another guy on that offensive side, Joe Philbin, with all the praise he got as the Packers offensive coordinator for all those years. A lot of people expected big things out of Lamar Miller this year, and he just hasn't proven himself.
Have you guys seen Dan Campbell? Did you watch his introductory press conference? I mean, that guy's just incredible.
Big man.
He is a big man. I mean, I honestly think the Dolphins could have just picked up any old meathead at Gold's Gym and just take him down. Aggressive coach speak. That's the way to go. I like Dan Campbell. All right, moving on. We're going on to college football. This year is the first in really a number of years where every team has seemed a bit vulnerable. A lot of teams have lost. Highly ranked teams have lost. Is it time to admit that there's really no best conference, so to speak, in college football?
I think the reign of the SEC, as we've known it in the past, 5 to 10 years, may be over. I think the last couple of postseasons, you've seen some of the stronger teams from the SEC go down in the postseason to some teams from other conferences. And I think it may just be kind of a year-to-year thing. I think this year the Pac-12 has shown that it's very strong. I think the SEC might have a couple of good teams, but as far as there just being an elite conference like we've seen from the SEC, to answer the question, no, I don't think that's going to be the case for the next few years.
I think when you look across the country, the difference is you don't have that elite quarterback that I feel like we've had over the past few years for certain teams and certain conferences. You don't have your over the past year, you had Aaron Murray, Mettenberger, and all these guys that were big NFL arms. When you look across the SEC now, you don't really see any of that anywhere. Pac-12, maybe you got Kessler and those kind of guys that are out there who, Kessler didn't play a very good game last night, but still a very good quarterback. It's just you don't see that dominant quarterback play, and especially for the SEC, when we were growing up, It was defense, defense, defense. Now we're giving up 50 points a game every single team.
Yeah, and like you said, Evan, from here on out, I think it's best to just look at it year by year, and it's so hard with the way recruiting has gotten, and it's so 24/7, and everybody's always on top of it, and coaches are flying all over the place, and you're no longer really recruiting in your region. You're getting guys from all over the place. It's so hard to have that prestige-dominant conference. I think year by year is the best way to look at it, and this year, if I had to choose one, I think the Pac-12 is outperforming the rest of them.
Yeah, you guys have talked to me before. We all know I'm a Pac-12 guy. I'm from California. I love the teams out there. Jared Goff at Cal, that's my guy. I'm excited for their game against Utah this weekend. Speaking of that game against Utah, we've got a number of games for you to pick this week, gentlemen. We're going to start off with the NCAA games. First game up in the Big Ten, we've got Northwestern, number 13, headed to number 18, Michigan, to take them on in Ann Arbor. Micah, how about you lead us off here?
I'm a big fan. It's in the big house. Harbaugh's done a lot of good things, and you're already starting to see the mentality of the team change. Where, you look around in certain teams, head coaches come in, it takes them a little while to get their mentality to the team. Harbaugh's high energy, play your guts out, and just physically dominate the other team, and you're starting to see them play in that fashion. I like the way that they're playing right now. I'm going to take Michigan. Northwestern, however, is a very good team coming off of a dominating performance against my Gophers. But I'm going to go with Big Blue.
I'll take Michigan as well. Very impressive out of them to have 2 straight shutouts in their past 2 games. And with Northwestern, not a lot of people are talking about them. They haven't really gotten into the Big Ten schedule for them thus far. And so right now, I think Michigan's going to win the game. But if Northwestern is able to win, that's a big win for their program and Pat Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I agree. I love what Jim Harbaugh is doing with that program. I'm going to be the outlier here. I'm going to go with Northwestern. I think this is the toughest game of the week to pick. I think this is a very even matchup. I just like Northwestern. I think they're very balanced, both on offense, running and passing, and then offensively and defensively. I think they're good on both sides of the ball, and I think they'll win a close one in Ann Arbor.
All right, gentlemen, next game moving on. Number 2, TCU at Kansas State. Tough game in Manhattan for the Horned Frogs. JJ, lead us off.
I think TCU wins this one. Trevon Boykin and all the weapons they have on offense, I don't think Kansas State can keep up.
It's tough when you go to Schneiderville, but go Frogs.
Yeah, I think Auburn learned that last year, went in there and won a tough Thursday night game, a close game, but I agree. I think TCU pulls this one out.
Number 12, Florida State heads to Miami to take on the U. Big game in the ACC. Evan, why don't you lead us off here?
I'm going to go with Florida State. They're without Dalvin Cook, which is obviously a big factor in that game, but I think Florida State, I think eventually Everett Golson has got to step up, and I think this may be the game where he does it and really starts to come around in that Florida State offense. I'm going to take them in a close one.
I like Kaya in Miami. I think they're moving in the right direction. However, I don't think Al Golden's going to hang around for too long now. Go Braves. Go Noles.
It would be such a big win for Al Golden, but you guys said it. Dalvin Cook out, time for Everett Golson to step up. I like the Seminoles here.
All right, number 19, Georgia at Tennessee. It's the CBS game at 2:30. JJ, lead us off here.
I think Georgia's a little upset with how they performed last week at home against Alabama. I think they respond and beat Tennessee. Tennessee is quickly falling out of the picture.
Yeah, Coach Jones has got to do something this week to get the Tennessee fan base back. They're not happy at Rocky Top right now. They're not singing their happy tune. So we'll see. Coach Richt always gets his boys ready after, especially the way they performed last week. I'm looking for a heavy dose of number 27.
Yeah, Tennessee was actually my preseason pick out of the East, and they have, as you said, woefully underperformed so far. I think there's just a lot of talent on that Tennessee team, and they've got to win one somewhere, and I think this is finally the one that they pull one out. So I'll go with Tennessee, even though they've had the fourth quarter struggles and everything. I'm going to pick the Vols on a flyer.
You're just going to be our outlier all the time?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's my job.
Here for. We're here for differing opinion. Finally, gentlemen, our game of the week. College game day will be there. Number 23, the California Golden Bears head to Salt Lake City to take on the number 5 ranked Utah Utes. Larson, lead us off.
Go Utes. I think in Salt Lake, they're rocking some throwback unis. I love the uni look. Cal has some nice unis themselves, but if I'm basing off of unis, I'm going Utah, and I just think Utah is going to win the game.
I think Jared Goff is playing so well at quarterback for Cal. I'm going to take Cal to win this game. Big win for their program going forward. Jared Goff is the real deal.
Well, I can't be the outlier this time because y'all's pick split, so I have to side with someone, and I'm going to go with you. I think Utah, they've really impressed me so far, especially going on the road to Oregon and winning that game in the fashion that they did, in blowout fashion. Just was very impressive to me. I'm going to take them. I think Cal hangs in the game because of Jared Goff, but I think in Salt Lake, I'll go with the Utes.
I appreciate it, Evan.
You're welcome.
Statistic of note, Pac-12 teams as of last night, road teams are 15-4 in conference games. That's a big number. All right, moving on. We're going to talk some NFL real quick here. Seattle and Cincinnati have a big game this week. Who do you like here?
I think the way Andy Dalton's been playing, it's regular season. It's not playoff Andy Dalton, not playoff Bengals. I think him and A.J. Green are something special and fun to watch. Going to be a really fun matchup, especially going against the Legion of Boom. I'm going to go with the Bengals, though.
The Bengals have been very impressive. They're really fun to talk about this season. And I really think what the Bengals do so well is develop their own players. You don't see them spending a lot of money out on the free agent market, and their players just really develop. The offensive line is giving Andy Dalton so much time, and I think that's why we're seeing such a successful Andy Dalton thus far. But against the Legion of Boom, LOB, I'm going to go with Seahawks here. I think this is a big one for them. 2-2 right now. They need to keep climbing.
I'm also going to go with Seattle. They've got a little bit of momentum coming off that big Monday night win at home. It was a very close game. Kind of we're fortunate at the end with the officials missing that call against the Lions, but I think they've got to get the offense clicking sooner or later, and I think Russell Wilson's finally going to figure things out, and they're going to get a big win against the Bengals.
All right, we turn to the Major League Baseball playoffs. We've got the division series started up, gentlemen. We got 4 series going on, obviously. I want just your pick to win the series. One word, just the team. JJ, Houston, Kansas City.
Kansas City.
Royals.
Kansas City.
Texas, Toronto.
I'll go Texas.
I'll go Blue Jays.
Toronto.
All right, on to the NL. Cubs picked up their big wild card win. Cubs and the Cardinals.
Pitching is so important in the playoffs, and the Cubs have a lot of it. Big matchup tonight, Game 1, Lester versus Lackey. They won that World Series together 2 years ago with the Red Sox. I like the Cubs in this series.
Marty McFly, Cubs.
There you go.
Sticking with them, Cubs.
All right, final series, I should say. Mets, Dodgers.
It's a 5-game series. You throw Kershaw and Greinke back-to-back. You have to like the Dodgers here.
I agree, Dodgers.
I've got the Dodgers too because of them, Kershaw and Greinke.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we got a fun game for you. This is Auburn Nation on Eagle Eye TV, Channel 6.
Boys will be boys.
Well, she was drunk.
Well, he was drunk.
She was asking for it.
He warned her.
Not my problem.
Why doesn't she just leave? But he's such a nice guy.
He said he was sorry.
We don't talk about that. It's just the way people are.
We're never going to fix it.
No more excuses.
No more silence.
No more violence.
It's time to end domestic violence and sexual assault once and for all.
Welcome back to Auburn Nation. I'm Evan Blank. We're here with our weekly panel. We're going to play a little game, gentlemen. This is Fill in the Blank, where our producer, Jared, makes a clever pun out of my last name. All right, gentlemen, question 1. Evan, we'll start out with you on all of these. Derrick Rose's career is blank.
I'm going to go with incomplete. I think that despite the injuries, he's got a little bit more left in the tank. I think he's going to come back stronger. And, we saw flashes of greatness when he came back last year after the knee injury. I think he's going to come back strong again, and I think we've yet to see all of Derrick Rose.
My word would be, it was hard for me to pick one kind of word to describe Derrick Rose, but kind of a shooting star, and stick with me here. He started out so strong coming out of the gates, Rookie of the Year, goes on to win MVP, and then he has all the knee injuries that goes, and now he's just kind of fading off, and not many people are talking about him. And then in the past week at training camp, Jimmy Butler has spoken out vocally about how he feels that Derrick Rose's work ethic isn't where it needs to be, which is a concern for that team, especially going into your first year with Fred Hoiberg as your new head coach. So he's kind of fading out of the picture.
I'm going to go with fractured. And as terrible as that sounds, I know. I just think when you look at his persona, what people view of him now is fractured. Not so much his physical body, but what you see of him. When he comes to your mind, he's not the Derrick Rose that you thought of when he won the MVP. Now he's just this Derrick Rose who knows? He might go up for a layup and then hobble off the court. So, and he's always a fraction of what he is, all that stuff. So you can throw fractured in there a lot, but I'm going with fractured.
All right, gentlemen. Question number 2, on to college football. Blank is the team that everyone should watch out for. Evan.
I'm going to go with Texas A&M. I think, Florida's gotten off to a strong start, and you've got LSU obviously put the beat down on Auburn, but they've looked good in some of their games so far. I think those are the teams people are kind of looking at in the SEC. The Texas A&M, you can't forget about them. They've got the new defensive coordinator. The defense, I think, has really improved from last year. Obviously, Kevin Sumlin is always going to bring that spread offensive attack. I think that could be a team that could make some noise and maybe even win the SEC title and make it to the college football playoff.
Baylor is my team that I'm going to talk about today. They put up a lot of points, and they're really fun to watch. Last week in the first half, they had 499 yards of offense. 490, almost 500 yards in the first half. Just ridiculous out of Art Browse in that offense. Seth Russell playing at a very high level. He's my candidate for the Heisman right now. Baylor's the team to watch out for going forward.
I got Utah, which obviously this week is going to be a very telling week for this team. Part of me really wants to go with Florida as my team to watch out for, as you mentioned earlier, Evan. With the emergence of Will Grier, Taylor's finally performing as the running back he was expected to be coming out of high school. Defensively, you got Vernon Hargraves, arguably one of the best college corners ever, outside of Joe Hayden, who, also was a Florida Gator. So I think Florida is a team to look out for. But as of right now, I'm going with Utah because I've never seen a team go to Oregon and put a beat down like they have.
Kyle Whittingham. He knows what he's doing out there in Salt Lake City. All right, question number 3. On to the world of Major League Baseball. Blank has the easiest and blank has the hardest path to the World Series. Tough question. Evan, start us off.
I'm going to go with Toronto and St. Louis, respectively. I think just in general, the American League is a little bit weaker than the National League in this year's playoffs. And then I think possibly, even though they won the AL West, I think maybe the weakest team on that American League side is the Rangers. And then even when you look at the other side, you've got Kansas City and Houston, both of whom I think Toronto could beat. And then on the National League side, I think with the Cardinals, you come in and you face a red-hot Cubs team right off the bat. That it's in a 5-game series, so you've got to be able to pick it up. You can't afford to throw games away. You've got to pick it up now. And then even if you win that series, you've got to face the winner of the Mets and the Dodgers, and both of them have extraordinary pitching staffs that you're going to have to go through. And I think it's just going to be a really tough road to the World Series for St. Louis.
I'm right there with you, Evan. I think Toronto has the easiest path despite their Game 1 loss to the Rangers yesterday. You talk about that offense and being able to score a lot of runs. We talk about how pitching is such a key in postseason baseball, but when you're able to score a lot of runs, you win a lot of games, and I think that they have the easiest. For the toughest path to the World Series, I'm going to go with the Chicago Cubs. The fact that they had to play in a game against Pittsburgh. The top 3 teams in the National League were all in one division, and now you have to go play the Cardinals, who are sitting there with the best record in baseball, and they seem to, every year they've got the new young stud on their team. So I think the Cubs have the toughest road to the series. I
agree. I mean, the Cardinals were the toughest team and the hottest team, and they clinched the division and a playoff spot. It felt like in July. Right. So, but I think Toronto, now playing a very dinged up Texas Rangers team, should be, I feel like, an easier road for them.
All right, gentlemen, we move to the fairway for our next question. I'll get my golf announcer voice going here.
After a disappointing year, Tiger Woods will win blank many more majors in his career. Evan, start us off.
I think I'm going to go with the easy answer at this point, which is 0. I think with all the injuries, I just don't see him being the man that he once was. And with all of the young studs that golf has right now, I think even if Tiger does get back to a competitive level, you just look at all of the competition, and I don't know if he's going to be able to stack up.
I'm going with my heart here. We were talking about this before this happened. I think he's got at least one more left in him coming back off that second back surgery. I just think that when Tiger gets in that stage with a lot of all eyes on him, wanting to know, is he back? Is he going to be able to get that win? And you mentioned all the young golfers. I think that's going to bring the best out of his game, and that competitive Tiger will be back for one more major win.
See, my concern with Tiger is because he wants to be the best when he goes against these young guys. He wants to hit balls farther than Dustin Johnson and Bubba Watson. That's how he blows his back out all the time. He's just concerned. He's not really willing to change his game. Yes, he's changed his swing, and he's changed a lot of things, which I agree with, but young guns. It's not early 2000s anymore. You got Ricky, Jordan, Dustin Johnson, we mentioned, Bubba. I mean, the field is just too deep now, I feel like, for Tiger. Who knows? Yes, he could maybe get one, but I'm going with a goose egg.
Question here, gentlemen. NFL here. We talked about this a little bit earlier. After Joe Philbin, blank will be the next head coach fired this year. Evan.
I don't think anything is imminent as far as, the next couple of weeks, but I'm going to go with Chip Kelly. I think the start that the Eagles have gotten off to has been very disappointing for everyone. But in addition to that, he took over the player personnel responsibilities before this year, really had a battle with the front office about that, traded away and let go a lot of his team, got his guys in there. So this year was all on him, and they're not coming through. And so I think he could easily be the next guy on his way out.
And you said it. I don't think the next head coach to be fired is coming right around the corner, that it's going to happen very soon. But if there was one, I look at Bill O'Brien in Houston. Another loss for them last night at home against Indianapolis. Andre Johnson, 2 touchdown catches and his return. And it seems just like when you're on Hard Knocks, you're not going to have the best season. And they got all the hype coming off to Hard Knocks. They've got a great defense who's not playing that well. And then the quarterback struggles that they're having going every week, going back and forth between Hoyer and Mallett. If you can't establish quarterback play, you're not going to be successful in the NFL.
My philosophy on the Texans, they're tanking to get Christian Hackenberg so he can be reunited with his boy. I'm serious. Just listen to me. When it happens, you can come talk to me. Just kidding, but that'd be kind of funny if it actually happened. But I'm going with Chip Kelly as well. I think when you look at the moves he made, trading Nick Foles to get Sam Bradford, who, if we want to talk about a fractured career, but I think, like you said, the trades, that put more weight on him than if he had just stayed a head coach and not managed personnel. So I think that really put the heat on him. Seat gets a lot hotter, a lot faster when it's your players and you're not performing.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. One more segment in you. You got it?
We
I
got
think
it.
we're in there.
All right, coming up next, our burning question. NFL game was in London last week. Could the NFL expand outside the United States? That'll be next. It's Eagle Eye TV.
What's up, guys?
Hey.
Can I bum a cig?
You're a smoker?
No, I never even bought my own pack.
It's a trap.
I only smoke on Saturdays, so it doesn't even count.
It's a trap.
I'm not a smoker. I'm gonna do yoga tomorrow.
Oh my god, it's a trap.
It tastes like tropical kumquats, so it can't be bad for me.
It's a trap.
Unicorn.
I'll quit when I graduate.
'Tis indeed a trap.
I only smoke when I'm...
Oh, it's a trap!
Welcome back to Auburn Nation on Eagle Eye TV Channel 6. We're here with our 3 analysts. Gentlemen, our burning question that we will always end off the show with. NFL just had their London game. When will the NFL expand outside the United States? Most likely location, it could be Canada, London, Mexico, somewhere else. JJ, lead us off.
I don't know when. I know that marketing is so big in the NFL, and they really are trying to expand outside the United States. When we talk about where, I would think that Canada would be your first option. When you look at the other 4, the 4 major North American sports, you talk about the MLB, NBA, and NHL, they all have teams in Canada, so you think that that'd be the next destination. But you also, as a fan, I don't want it to be like London is just so far away, and just having a team and you're always having to travel all the way across there. And the London team, they're either always having to travel back across to the United States. So as a fan, I don't want that to happen, but I think it could.
It would. I mean, it'd be essentially like the Hawaii factor if we
Right.
had a team in London, where it's like, okay, the amount of travel time. I mean, how many home games would they have? Would they just come over and play like 3 road games and then fly back and have 3 home games? I think the easiest thing would be to go to Toronto.
Right.
But the only factor is you have a team in Buffalo, like right on the other side. But it would be very interesting. I think Toronto obviously is a big pick. It's trendy city. and Drake's there, so who knows? You can get a team there anytime, I guess.
Yeah, I think logically speaking, Canada is the spot. But I think you said it, and it's marketing for the NFL. And I think because of that, I think somewhere in the next 10 years or so, we're going to see a team in Europe. And I know all the travel complications, and I realize that. But when you talk about an opportunity to market to an entire continent and sell merchandise to an entire continent that's never really gotten into American football, I think that's going to be too big of an opportunity for the NFL to pass up, and I think that will be their next move to Europe.
I think the first concern of the NFL is just figuring out what team is going to go out to LA, because they're so set on one of those teams moving to LA. I think you need to worry about what's going on in the United States before you expand. And then when you talk about expansion, if you add a team in London, now you're at 33 total teams, and I know that you're going to need an even number. So where is that other team going to go? So they really have to plan this way out in advance and get so that you have an even number and you can realign all the conferences and divisions and whatnot. So it's a big process going forward.
Maybe we see a team go to Europe and Canada,
right.
and that evens things out. But
because California needs more teams, right?
Oh yeah, if they don't have anything out there sports related.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for your attentiveness today. I'm glad to have you all on. I hope to see you guys in the future. This could be a fun ride. All right, thank you for joining us. This has been Auburn Nation on Eagle Eye TV, Channel 6. We'll see you next week. I thought that went okay.
I think it went well.
Come on, I'm asking.
On the shot, so there's no point in using that shot. If we had
Yeah, it's sort of weird, just the side of Evan's head. Like, he has a nice face. Let's show it. Doing Louisville gives hookers to their players. That's exciting. This year is the first in a while where every team seems vulnerable. Is it time to admit that there's no best conference in college football? Not true. Pac-12 Conference of Champions, Dillard.
Like the Pac-14?
Good guy. Am I right?
Am I right?
Shimmy,
You
shimmy.
almost said Weagle again.
Shimmy, shimmy.
I
keep almost saying Weagle.
Tigers gonna be
10 seconds.
I'm just gonna say 0.
They're all gonna say 0.
I'm not gonna say 0.
Oh,
Tigers
you're
are
an
my guy.
idiot, though.
Oh my God! What do you
I
want?
need a Derrick Rose word.
That's your job.
That's
This is basically what I do on the radio.
That's your job!
JJ was
So is he gonna have a live shot panning over?
gonna go Evan, and then I'm going in on JJ.
Oh, you're going in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's gonna? But Jared, who's gonna look at me?
Can we get going there?
I almost said drawing a blank with Evan Blank. This is so hard.
Your lead into the next segment was great, and then you just didn't.
I
where we were.
imploded. You know what it is? It's because I did my radio show this morning instead of yesterday like I usually do. It was just on my mind.
Yeah.
It's the Beijing Dragons. Stereotypical? Why not? It says closing line. What the hell? Have a good day. There you go. It would be great if you guys tuned in some other time. Oh. Is this television? Who the hell knows?
Yeah. Thanks for watching on Legal 91.1.